Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I really hope you're having a good day. And it's an amazing day here in Southern California. It's sunny and blue and just a perfect fall October day. So I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, whatever you're doing today, no matter when you're listening to this. Today is actually Friday, October 26, 2012, and we are currently broadcasting worldwide from Southern California. So thank you for joining us. Right now we're doing about 3 shows per week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So again, thank you for spending some time with us. I have a really great guest for you today, Dr. Jack Tips. It's going to be a really good interview and discussion we're going to have. This is episode number 27, and you can find it at extremehealthradio.com/27. And on that show, you'll find a special PDF document that the good doc, is going to provide to us, as well as the transcription, show notes that include the websites and any reference materials he talks about. So if you have any questions for our guests ever, just email them to justin@extremehealthradio.com, or you can call our voicemail line, which is 949-391-7363, and I will play your message to our guest on the air. This show is brought to you by the Vitamix blender. I don't want to leave that out. That is an incredible blender. It's really an industrial machine. If you're in the market for a high-quality blender, please consider buying it through us. We'll get a little commission, and you'll get free shipping. So it's a good deal for all. You can check that out at extremehealthradio.com/Vitamix. And before I introduce our show guest, which is Dr. Jack Tips, I'd like to just talk about our upcoming show schedule, the next 3 guests. We have Danny Roddy this coming Monday. He's a researcher into stress and hormones and how they relate to our health. He really is a fan of Dr. Ray Peat, and so our hormones control just about everything. So that's going to be a great show. We also have Amanda Love on Wednesday, and she talks a lot about fermented foods and the importance of having beneficial, healthy bacteria in our bodies and our guts. So that'll be a great show. And then we've got Dr. Norm Shealy next Friday. And Norm Shealy is a prolific guy. He's written tons of books, and he does a lot of work with energy medicine and things like that. So he's a really great guy. So I think you're going to enjoy that interview. But today we have Dr. Jack Tips, and he's a PhD in nutrition science from the Dr. Roger Williams School of Nutrition Science, Clayton, Missouri. He did his dissertation on Conquer Candida and restoring your immune system. And he is a board-certified natural physician with the American Naturopathic Medical Certification and Accreditation Board, and licensed to practice clinical nutrition in New York. He's a member of the advisory board for the International Association of Naturopathy in Japan, and he's a certified clinical nutritionist with the International and American Associations of Clinical Nutritionists, and serves on their scientific council. And he's also the author of over 15 books: The Provida Plan for Optimal Nutrition, The Wait is Over, Breast Health, all kinds of really great books he's written. So thank you so much, Dr. Tips, for joining us today.
Well, hello, Justin, and hello to all the Extreme Health Radio listeners. What a pleasure it is to get to visit. You know, I've got some really important things to discuss, and I hope that people will find at the end of our visit that they have new tools for improving their health.
Oh, great. So you are practicing out of Austin, Texas, is that right?
That's where I am, yes. Austin has pretty much been home base for me, and I've been in clinical practice for 28 years, seeking only the nutritional and natural health answers, because I've wholeheartedly believe that, foods are our medicine, the herbs are our medicines, remedies from natural substances are the true medicines for the human body. And that's what I've been dedicated to, and that's been my passion for the last 28 years of practice.
Wow. So prior to practice, were you following a healthy lifestyle, or when did you get into nutrition and that aspect of it personally?
I started pretty young. I remember throwing a paper route in Dallas, so I must have been 15 years old, and using all my money down at the health food store. And the reason for being such a health nut was that I had very, very poor health as a child. I was allergic, asthmatic, even some kidney issues and so forth. And after years and years, in fact, my whole childhood being drugged from doctor to doctor, given medication after medication with nothing really helping, I was really taking my own self-destiny and matters in my own hand. And I was reading Adele Davis and Dr. Pavo Areola and hanging out with the old ladies down at the health food store. And we would argue things like, would butter be a good food for a human being and things like that. And so for some reason, I was very blessed to find my way into the supplementation and natural health world. And I think that's became a powerful guiding influence for me.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's just a typical, what 12-year-old boys do, right? Discuss butter and whether or not that's healthy.
Well, I think I was pretty weird. And in my bedroom next to my model cars, I had, racks of vitamins. I was taking A, B, C, D, E, F, and G every day when I woke up because I was studying vitamins, studying minerals. And then I found my way to herbs. And then I found my way to homeopathic medicine. And then I picked up along the side naturopathy and even traditional Chinese medicine roots and so forth. And out of all those studies came a paradigm for me that, number one, the body can heal itself if and when we give it the proper directives and the proper nutrients. This is the innate instinct of our bodies, is to self-regulate. And when we find that our bodies are ailing and not able to self-regulate, there's always a cause. Mm-hmm. And if we correct the cause and allow the body to correct the cause in its own methods, then we can help our bodies restore our most optimal health. And that's what happened with me. So by the time I was, let's say by my early 20s, I had healed chronic degenerative disease, or let me put it this way, I had found the right practitioners, including a medical homeopath, that helped my body heal. And I've been able to live, I'll have to admit, probably the last 45 years in probably one of the more optimal states of health of human beings. And it's given me a quality of life and an appreciation for life that I never could have found anywhere else.
So why do you think you had some of those health issues? I've seen, younger and younger people these days having just really incredible health issues, whether it's diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis or cancer. And these people are in their 30s and early 40s or even in their 20s. Do you think something's going on with our genetics that are getting weaker? Is this generation somehow less healthy than the prior generation?
Boy, one could sure be suspicious, but I'll make a point that why I was ill as a young child is probably different than why young people today are becoming ill. Mm-hmm. I think there's been a huge shift. We might call it a paradigm or cornerstone shift in our health. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit more as we progress, that the game has changed. It's different today in the 21st century than it was in the 20th century. And so I was a mid-20th century very sick person health-wise, and we'd have to go back and say, why did this happen to me? And I would say, well, it's the entire holistic model that was at play. There were factors going on in my upbringing and the type of family that I was in. In other words, I'll just go ahead and say it, suppression. Ability to communicate was involved in my upbringing. Secondly, though, I inherited the genetics. My mother in her lifetime became environmentally sensitive and had to retreat to an environmental safe home out in the country. And she was a post-polio sufferer. And then my dad had a lot of allergy issues. So yes, I was born with epigenetics that were interpreting the world as hostile and that the immune system needed to be on instant alert. And yes, I had the genome or the genetics that put that information up front. So as we look at the cell and the RNA transcribes the DNA, and that's how our bodies operate, my operating system was on an hyperimmune auto alert, where I developed the respiratory allergies and a lot of the suffering that comes with being overreactive. And so whether it's my own karma, whether it was my genetics, whether it was the way my epigenetics transcribed my genetics, my allergies then to dust and foods and the environment had me being the kid that couldn't go to PE and, physical ed and run on the playground. I was kind of the geeky kid with the asthma inhaler far out of my hand. And I'll tell you, to find the natural healing therapies that turned around a chronic degenerative disease, and by my early 20s, I was able to engage in collegiate athletics and be able to trot the globe and hike in high altitudes and do all the things that a rich and varied life can give. What a blessing the natural health therapies brought to me as I was able to change my epigenetic response. Maybe my genetics were able to quiet down the processes that would have led me to chronic drug dependency in order to breathe the breath of life. And so that's what natural health has done, and why I'm certainly why I'm such a devotee and advocate for having the body and its ability to heal itself.
It's kind of scary when you look out there and you see it's almost an assault on even just this brand new generation with children. And, you got the lack of being breastfed, you got lack of beneficial bacteria, and then you have the assaults as well on, their health with the vaccinations. And then you couple that with our food, our soils are depleted. And so, I wonder where this current, young baby generation that are, coming in now, how they're going to fare if they don't start making some changes, to all of these issues.
You're so right, Justin, and you really hit the nail on the head with a few points. And unfortunately, there's even more points that are, we might say, our bodies have learned over the generations. We're programmed a certain way. Our epigenetics are programmed to read and respond to the environment. A lot of that environment is the bacterial culture in our GI tracts. And so when I heard you have a guest speaker on raw fermented organic vegetables, things like that provide the cultures back to the intestines, this is foundational and critically important. The point is this, let's say our bodies intuitively, instinctively, in their innate wisdom, we're juggling 1,000 factors regarding the environment, temperature change, what the food quality is. And we know today that, in fact, a lot of the work of Dr. Lipton has pointed out to us that our genetics and our epigenetics manifest our health according to what we think, to what we feel, to what we believe, and to what we eat, and to how healthy our intestinal culture is, because we have more bacteria in our GI tract than we have cells in our bodies. And the bacteria relationship we have symbiotically controls the set point of our immunity. It controls our very thoughts, either through the blood-brain barrier or, if the bacteria in our intestines are craving chocolate, we'll get a chocolate craving. And they also control the set point on our weight. And so as we start finding this new information in the 21st century, it keeps driving us back again and again. Food is our medicine. The plants and minerals on this planet are our medicines, and that our genetics and epigenetics will bring us health when we do the right thing. But the environmental onslaught, look at the things that have changed in the last 100 years. And even from the quick response epigenetics that allow us to adapt and survive, and literally it's our epigenetics, how our bodies interpret our genetics. We manifest to deal with the environment. That's the epigenetics. And it's that is on a quick response, and that's how we survive. We don't wait for genetic mutations. Epigenetics are also involved in a mutative adaptive expression. And when we look, number one, we have electromagnetic frequencies, cell phones, airport scanners, mammograms, all of this radiation bombarding the body. Now, this is both ionizing, such as, thank you, Fukushima, dropping nuclear radiation all over our agriculture, but also the non-ionizing radiations that can create single nucleotide polymorphisms, which we call SNPs. In other words, damage our DNA. Now that's going on. Now you bring in research that may have had some bit of altruism when it started, that we were going to feed the world or we're going to modify the genetics of food. What was totally overlooked, what has become one of the greatest evil forces that's affecting humanity today, is this genetic modification of food, because it's changed the core genetics plant. And now our bodies, when we get at the cellular level, see, it's so deep. We say, oh, the food grows, you can eat it, it tastes good. But you know what? When your body breaks it down and now it goes inside your cell and tries to communicate with your DNA, suddenly the body goes, whoa, I can't recognize this. What's this allergenic protein? Why are these molecules scrambled? And that's why we're seeing the suppression by companies like Monsanto and others, that when the cattle die from eating genetically modified food in India, it's hushed up. When Argentina, the soy, is causing school children to become very sick, the government says, don't only feed genetically modified soy to your kids once a week now instead of with soy burgers every day. But this is all being covered up, and the United States people are becoming the guinea pigs for this. And now today, I'm sorry, but all of us have had exposure to genetically modified food. 85% of the corn in this country. So if you're in South Texas, you're in South California, I'm in Texas. Don't you have to grab a tortilla chip and dip it in the salsa now and then? But the corn chip has been genetically modified, and it can upset the bacteria in your GI tract. And furthermore, when you assimilate that molecule, your body says it's foreign, and it raises inflammation. So this is huge because, as you were pointing out, Justin, our food now is becoming toxic and poisonous and is laden with all the pesticides that create inflammation. One of our first early warnings of this dire plight with our food came out in 2004. It was on the cover of Time magazine. It said, "Inflammation, the silent killer." And what causes cellular inflammation are the pesticides in the food, the genetically modified food, the toxins in the environment that our runaway corporations will try to put the toxic waste back into the environment. And now we're really being targeted as a species to be the filters for toxic waste. Our livers are such great detoxifying agents that all of this, we're reading now about the arsenic in rice that corporations have deliberately put in the rice and spread out over the human population. This has happened with mercury, and it happens with pesticides. And I think that the plight of the 21st century, just to jump ahead, I hope I'm not talking too much, is that the plight of the 21st century that was really different than the 20th century is it's the plight of the cell. The cell membranes are inflamed. The cell membranes are getting damaged by the trans fats. The cell membranes are being damaged throughout our body by mercury from the dental fillings and the pesticides in the food. Our set point of inflammation has risen, and the side effect of ongoing war in our bodies. And if we want to look at it globally, this set point of inflammation just would happen today if we just had a lot of hot spots all over the earth where people are firing weapons and mortars and guns, and that we have the collateral damage that's draining the human vitality because of a lot of wars. And this is going on in our body. It's a necessary response, right? Our bodies definitely believe in, victory through superior firepower or peace through superior firepower. And this is what our bodies do. And this, of course, is reflected in our world today. But collateral damage of having to do that is inflaming our bodies. Inflammation is what is behind all the chronic degenerative diseases. It is what is behind all the autoimmune diseases. So this is the plight now that our cells cannot make enough ATP energy. That's the chemical energy of life. The thyroids are turning down the thermostats in our bodies because we're afraid of burning ourselves up with all the stress of living in the modern society. And then we have oxidative damage going on in the mitochondria of our cells. Now, the mitochondria are the little organelles. There might be 3,000 to 6,000 of them in one cell that make the energy of life, ATP. And so these mitochondria cell membranes themselves are being damaged by free radicals. And this is the start of cancer. This is the start of autoimmune disease. The mitochondria talk to our genetics. They're different genetics than ours, but it talks to the core of our cell, and our bodies start eliciting the processes and the damaged genetics that turn into cancer and arthritis and multiple sclerosis and ALS and Crohn's disease. All of these things are stemming from this onslaught of toxicity that is causing the inflammation. So where in the past we could say, in the 20th century, someone would come and say, I have a thyroid issue, and I knew that if I gave them a thyroid herbal formula, that those herbs would influence their epigenetics to manifest proper thyroid function. I knew that nutrition could rebuild the integrity of the thyroid, and that nutrition could rebuild what's called the neuroendocrine axis between the adrenals, the thyroid, the hypothalamus in the brain, and then how the pituitary runs the body. So that these feedback loops could all be balanced by the adaptogenic properties of herbs. And it was so easy in the old days. I had people that were diagnosed with Graves' disease, with Hashimoto's, and they would come in, and usually in 3 to 4 months, they could be well. And yet medicine keeps telling people you can't cure these things. Throughout the 28 years in my practice, I've seen them corrected by the body time and time again, to where I find it unethical to tell people their bodies can't cure these things. So this is where things have shifted, because now our nutrition has to directly address what's going on inside the cells. Things like what's called the no-ono cycle, which is nitric oxide turning into peroxynitrite, creating massive free radical damage that damages the mitochondria, lowers the ATP energy, and then starts to express diseases from a sick cell. And so these are the types of things deep inside the cells that need to be dealt with today. And we're very blessed that nutrition is still able, healthy kind of natural vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. When I say nutrient, I mean things like, coenzyme Q10 or N-acetylcysteine and alpha lipoic acid and so forth. These compounds that are natural to plants in the world. These still, if delivered to the cell, we still have an opportunity to restore our health. But the game has changed. If your practitioner is doing what the practitioner was doing in the 20th century, then there has to be a diminishing returns. I've seen this as I've lectured around the world, whether it's acupuncturists, whether it's chiropractors, whether it's clinical nutritionists, the natural healing therapies in the 21st century, they're struggling to do what they used to do. If they've been around that long, the newcomers, they don't know any difference, except that it's hard to get people well using the old school type of approach. Now, the laws that govern the old school are absolutely 100% accurate. Things that all diseases begin in the stomach or in the intestines or on your plate. Everybody's argued that, but the thing is that we have to have the diet. We have to have our exercise, and we must absolutely, in today's world, I'm going to slow down, Justin, to see if you or anyone has a question, but we must today now take into our own hands the process of detoxification. Our bodies need help.
Couldn't be better said. And we got to take a quick break. Dr. Tips, you can find, if you're interested in what he's talking about, his website is jacktips.com. I would highly recommend checking out his website and looking further into his work, and also his books. All of his books will be on our show page here. So we got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Jack Tips. I hope you're enjoying the interview so far and getting a lot out of it. I just wanted to tell you really quickly about a program by Chris Kresser called The Healthy Baby Code. And if you haven't heard of Chris Kresser, he's got a blog called chriskresser.com, and he's put together an amazing course on how to have a healthy baby and how to avoid things like autism and childhood diseases. And, a lot of kids get leukemia these days, and it's just, childhood diseases is rampant. And if you're looking to avoid all that and to have the healthiest baby possible, definitely check out the Healthy Baby Code. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/babycode. And it comes with about 5.5 hours of video presentations. It comes with audio presentations, so you can download them to your iPod. It's got hundreds of pages of resources materials, an ebook, and bonus files. You get all kinds of things like cheat sheets, meal plans, how-to to breastfeed, how long to breastfeed, natural birthing. He's got the whole thing just covered from A to Z in this course. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to get pregnant or if you already are pregnant, you got to check this out. It's the Healthy Baby Code by Chris Kresser. And again, you can find it at extremehealthradio.com/babycode. Okay, we are with Dr. Jack Tips from jacktips.com, and I highly recommend checking out his website. He's got lots of great stuff on there. I've been on there recently quite a bit. Dr. Tips, I wanted to ask you about what do you think is an issue with people who, they may have a cold or a flu, but many times people will suppress their symptoms, using artificial medications from the, grocery store or something, and, not allowing your body to go through a sickness by artificially aiding it. What do you think some of the problems are with that for children and for adults?
One of the perspectives that we really should have on health is that a truly healthy person is not necessarily a person who never, ever gets sick. I'll tell you this, a really healthy person might get a little cold or a little flu. It would be very mild, and they might get it once every 12 or 15 years, and maybe never. But the point is, the real measure of health is the ability to get over it, is the ability to have your body adapt, and anyone can catch a bit of a virus that maybe their immune system gets a little blindsided, maybe their stress hormones were too high, maybe they had an insult of getting wet in the icy cold or something, and it just, threw their body for a loop, and now they start getting the runny nose and the cold-like symptoms or the flu-like symptoms. And what's actually going on is the body is using its processes to go ahead and cleanse out its inner terrain. And it'll take that as an opportunity to get rid of viruses, bacteria, other pathogens, because it might raise up a fever that allows the immune system to basically hunt out and root out all kinds of annoying situations, maybe even deal with some of the biofilms where these viruses and bacteria and spirochetes and things hide in the body under kind of a protective M&M shell. Generally, the cold-like symptoms are the body's innate intelligence, raising fever, either keeping or reducing appetite, maybe loosening the bowels or something. These are the tools the body has to cleanse itself. And so when people suppress that process, just for, basically we all want to suffer less. We all want to move away from pain and toward pleasure. That's a fundamental fact of life, on all life. And so when we suppress the process, though, we basically stop the body's self-cleansing mechanism. And then that can then allow the toxins to stay in the body. The immune system never gets to finish its job that it was being raised up to do. And so there's an incompleteness. There's an immunological confusion. There can be a lower state of health that comes from the suppression. And so in the natural health model, we look at what is suppressive and what is helpful. Again, now people should not be getting the flu anyway, and we do have a new issue in today's world, and that's all the viruses that are being created in research that are, there's plenty of evidence that viruses have been unleashed upon humanity in different areas, either called accident or by experiment. And so we have different and new viruses that run around that definitely will challenge the human immune system. And we can consider ourselves blessed when we look at all the plagues and diseases of the past. In 1913, we had the great influenza epidemic, and those that survived are basically where a lot of our genetics are coming from today. And so we have a greater immunity because of the travails of the past. But the new viruses are new threats. And so the number one defense on this is to keep your body healthy, keep your nutrition up. We know from many studies that vitamin D is very effective. I saw recently some bogus research that's being promulgated in the marketplace telling people that vitamin D won't really help you and that you should go get a toxic flu shot that only addresses 3 or 4 strains when there's going to be 100, even coming through San Diego. There's going to be 100 strains of flu, and you need to get a shot that has excitotoxins in it, such as mercury. to protect yourself. And I think I'm just so pleased to see, like, for instance, Dr. Mercola and other leaders come out and say, whoa, wait a minute. You don't need to toxic up your body with a vaccine like that in order to do well in the winter. You do need to build your vitamin D. You do need to have a good immune system. You do need to have good nutrition. And by golly, your body's going to take care of itself. I mean, we're made to adapt and survive, and we've done it for a couple 100,000 years, which is a small amount of time on this planet. But human beings have become one of the dominant species because of our ability to adapt and survive, and we should be supporting it. Now, so you get a cold or a flu, and of course, no one wants to suffer much, but there's things in natural health, the hot salt and soda bath or a mustard bath, increasing nutrients or gargling with hot salt water, or, taking zinc, spraying it on the throat so that the throat doesn't get so sore and we just, lay around in pain. But at the time of getting sick, it's so valuable to increase water and to help the body flush out the toxins and let the body go through its processes. No one wants to afford slowing down and go, uh-oh, I'm getting a cold. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to speak and get on an airplane. And so we all keep push. And a lot of times being sick is the body saying, okay, guy, you've pushed the limit. You've stepped outside the mid-range of where I can adapt and survive and give you optimal health. So the body now says, in its instinctive and innate wisdom, slow down, go to bed, have your chicken soup, have your vegetable soup, take some supplements, drink more water, and by all means take a homeopathic remedy and help your body quickly get the job done. And so really it comes back to this type of getting sick often is a call from the body to detoxify, that the toxins have built up. No matter how good your lifestyle is, you still can accumulate toxins from your food, from the air, just from living in the world today. And some people are better accumulators and some people are better detoxifiers. But when you hit a certain point, the body will go into more aggressive self-cleansings, and that often involves mucus running out of the body through the lungs and the nose, loosening of stool so the body can detoxify through the bowels, and running fever. So basically, fever is the body's beneficial and helpful method of pasteurizing bacteria. So immediately to run and suppress fever and go, oh, well, we're going to help little Johnny. We don't want him to have a fever. Well, you know what? We do want him to have a fever, and we want him to get over the fever quickly and effectively and let the body run its course. And out of that, the immune system, the macrophage, will clean up those bacterial fragments and make antibodies, and that person having gone through a mild fever of the afternoon. Now keep in mind, I'm not talking about 107 and frying brain cells and a dangerous condition. I'm talking about a fever of a 101.2 to 103, and the body's just going to burn up these bad guys, and it's going to accelerate its immune system, and the person's going to feel bad, low energy, maybe even some achy bones during this time, but they're going to come out of it better than ever. Mm-hmm. And when that process is suppressed, people often say, it's been 3 weeks since I had the cold or flu and I still don't have my energy back. That's not right. Mm-hmm. That person in health trouble. So again, we look at a lot of this, getting our susceptibility to fevers and flus and things as the body looking at the toxicity, whether it's the waste products of bacteria and fungus and viruses, or whether it's the waste products that are in our food and air, that it's just when the body hits a certain threshold, it's going to say, hey, I've got the mechanism to cleanse. It's going to be mucus excretion, building up the immune system, running a fever. And a lot of times, if we just take that day or day and a half off and let the body run its course and nurture ourselves with the care that we need at that time, we'll come out stronger than ever before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. I got to do one more ad here. I want to get that over with because I want to have a larger segment at the end, because there's some things I want to discuss with you, like basically digestion and how that fits in with autoimmunity, leaky gut and detoxification. All those kind of things stem from digestion. So I want to run this ad real quick, and we'll be right back with Dr. Jack Tips.
Hi, this is Kate. Thanks so much for listening to the show. I want to tell you about a product I love called Yeast Infection No More. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/yeast. If you're like me and you've ever had a yeast problem, candida overgrowth, you've had many of the following symptoms like digestive disorders, gas, bloating, skin rashes, allergies, migraines, always being tired, PMS, this is a great system that will teach you how to permanently cure your yeast infection, rebalance your body, boost your immune system, regaining back your life, basically. Successfully used by thousands of men and women worldwide. It's best-selling. It's instantly downloadable. 250 pages of jam-packed advice and instruction. It's backed by over 35,000 hours of intense research. It also is accompanied by a free private mail counseling for over 3 months if you buy the product. What is there not to love about it? Again, find it at extremehealthradio.com/yeast.
We are with Dr. Jack Tips from jacktips.com. And so we were talking before the break about all of these issues that people have. I wanted to ask you, in a minute, we'll get to autoimmunity and leaky gut, but just for our listeners, what are some things that they can do? Because like you mentioned earlier, that lots of diseases, if not all of diseases, starts in the colon. So what are some things that people can do to improve their digestion?
And this is a critically important thing. And this goes back when I was saying earlier that our ancient naturopathic wisdom is as important today as it's ever been. Just because the game has changed in how we have to treat our bodies, the principles are timeless. And what the principle you're citing, Justin, is that if we have to have the good digestive tract. I don't know if it's acceptable to mention some of the types of products that are developed that people can get either through clinicians, or if they're a clinician, they can get. The mission now to correct this object called leaky gut. Now, number one, you might be listening and thinking, well, I don't have leaky gut. You get up every morning, have a bowel movement, you don't have any aches or pains. You might even be so bold as to say you've got cast iron stomach or something like that. But what's really going on is most people that have leaky gut don't know they have it. And that's because it's low-level inflammation, and the set point of inflammation throughout their body has been raised. Your intestinal tract has some cells called enterocytes. They're specialized cells, and they're going to be what passes the tiny, tiny nutrients that your digestion breaks down into the bloodstream. And the subject, for those that don't understand leaky gut or what we're really talking about, is between these cells, there's a barrier, and it's called a tight junction. And there's an enzyme that opens that junction and can literally throw open the floodgates, and what's in our intestines ends up in our bloodstream. Now, this was really discovered when researching cholera. You might be familiar that cholera is a pathogenic bacteria. And if you get cholera, you basically die of dehydration from having so much diarrhea. But the real killer are the toxins from cholera that get into the bloodstream, because cholera releases an enzyme called zonulin. And this is the gatekeeper. This opens those tight junctions in your intestine, and suddenly your bloodstream is flooded with toxic products, not only from your intestines, but from the bacterial waste. So if you understand, like even with anthrax, it's not the anthrax that kills people, it's the anthrax metabolic waste that is so damaging. So that's what happens in cholera. The tight junctions open. And so today we have, without having cholera, which is not a popular disease in the United States because, thankfully of sanitation standards. And that's one thing we'll say, even though our tap water is poisoning us with chlorine and with fluoride, it has eliminated these pandemic diseases that you might say third world country, or people that are drinking out of feces infested water can end up having cholera epidemics. So now, but what we have today is another issue in the GI tract, and it's called celiac disease. And if you don't have genetic celiac, then you probably have leaky gut and so forth. One of the reasons we have leaky gut is the hybridization of wheat. And this is why wheat gets to be on the hit list so much, because of celiac, where they directly react to gluten. But gluten's not the whole thing. It's the gliadins in the wheat. And what's happened with our American wheat is, you might say in the ancient days, the biblical days, wheat had 14 chromosomes. And so our bodies adapted to those proteins. And, back then, wheat was probably a very good food. We'd have to say that humanity did adapt to it. We know from Egyptian mummy studies that when wheat agriculture was started, arthritis went up in their culture when they went from a hunter-gatherer diet of basically vegetables and protein. They went to the agrarian civilization advancement because, agriculture gives us the ability to live in cities and to pursue other things than hunting and gathering. So there's a trade-off. But after 4,000 years, many people are adapted to 14 chromosome wheat. But now, because of selective hybridization, which is a natural process, and I'm not even talking about genetic modification by inserting foreign proteins into the genetic structure of our food, which is much, much worse. We're talking about hybridization, where today that 18-inch tall wheat that was made that way, number one, to increase yield. So the same plant has 3 times the yield. That may have a bearing on the quality of nutrition, right? We're trying to squeeze more volume for less nutrient. We're only giving 3 fertilizer elements into the crop, and it all grows 18 inches because that's a very convenient size for the thrashing, harvesting machines. Mm-hmm. It was not done for human nutrition. It was done for volume, to fill bellies with empty calories, and it was done for the convenience of farming and having big ag be able to run big thrashing machines. So what we have today is 53 to 64 chromosomes in the wheat, and a lot of those involve gliadins and other proteins, which when we absorb them, they create inflammation and problems in the body. So as America has gone into a wheat-based diet, we've seen the skyrocketing inflammation. Now, wheat in a celiac causes zonulin and opening of the tight junctures. So people today who have French toast for breakfast or pancakes, have a burger for lunch, and then settle down with more sandwiches or breads for dinner, it's this massive onslaught. Maybe if they only had wheat 2 or 3 times a week, it'd all come out in the wash. Mm-hmm. But it's 3 times a day, 4 times a day. These new grains and hybridized, not even to mention the genetically modified. So this is causing low-level inflammation in the GI tract. Our guts are more leaky. Now, when we have this leaky gut, the same autoimmune attack that occurs in the intestines, susceptible people will get Crohn's. Less susceptible people will have irritable bowel syndrome. But the same process also attacks the thyroid. There's a direct enzyme that attacks the thyroid and creates autoimmunity of the thyroid. So leaky gut equals thyroid hypoactivity, and it can go through hyperphases. It also opens the blood-brain barrier. So now if you have a child with mercury dental fillings in his teeth and he's eating something acidic like a soda or a pizza, then that mercury gets into the bloodstream and the barriers are open to the brain. And when that brain gets enough mercury, that's where people are getting the connection into autism and autism spectrum diseases. And they try to blame it on mercury, but it's not just mercury. It's the body's autoimmune response, and it can be other chemicals that are not being tested, such as, let's say the 64 chemicals that can be used on spinach in our agriculture. So now we're back into the GI tract with this low-level inflammation. And Justin, you were asking what people can do. Mm-hmm. Now, in some of my work, I'm just so thrilled that I'm working with a very small boutique company out of Utah. And for those who are interested, it's called Systemic Formulas. But under the brilliant guidance of the herbalomic and cellular biologist there, Dr. Shane Morris, who actually turns out to be the grandson of one of my mentors, known as Doc Wheelwright. Dr. Morris, a brilliant biochemist, has been able to develop a fiber, both soluble and insoluble fibers. He has Bacillus coagulans in it, which is a probiotic bacteria. That's one tough bacteria. It'll go in and kick out candida and kick out a lot of the bacterial and fungal and nasty things that are in the GI tract. And he's put together a formula that I am getting clinical results with and absolutely love. But for people who don't want a parochial advertisement for a specific product, it's fiber. You want to have a good blend of soluble and insoluble fibers. And because it is so vastly removed from our diet, it's removed from our bread, it's removed from our rice, white rice, white potato, instant products. Mm-hmm. We have to come to grips with the fact that we need to supplement fiber. And so this can be done with over-the-counter supplements at the health food store, or a person can directly start increasing the fiber-rich foods in their diet, which are all the things that we should be eating anyway: nuts, seeds, vegetables, good leafy vegetables, and all of this type of thing. And then our fruit. It has to be organic because of all the pesticides. Strawberries would be a great example of a high-fiber food. Now, we need to build our fiber, and then we have a baseline in naturopathic medicine. If you eat 3 meals a day, you probably should be having at least 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. You're packing it in, it should be packing out. And that we now know to look at the quality of the stool. It should break up on flushing. It should be light and floating. It shouldn't be heavy. And so the first thing a person wants to do if they want to live a truly healthy life is they need to manage their digestion. Most people think that means buying digestive enzymes, but what it really means is restoring your body's ability to make its own enzymes, to conserve enzymes, and to not have inflammation, and to properly break down our food so we get rich nutrients going into our lymphatics and into our bloodstream, which the liver will then humanize. The body can easily detoxify any waste, and these are what's called the pot herbs, or the herbs that go on the kitchen table: broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, you name it, kale. This is where it starts. And again, we heard that you're also hosting a show on the raw fermented vegetables. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This should be on every table. We know, even from the old days, Dr. Bernard Jensen, who lived out there in the Escondido area in Southern California, he was a huge advocate and uncovered even the Hunza and the Balkans' use of kefir and fermented vegetables. And so this is deep in the naturopathic model. And you say, well, what's a fermented vegetable? Well, number one, you can go down to the local health food store, and I'll certainly say for you people there in Southern California, you should make Jimbos. Jimbos, because by golly, he deserves it with his leadership in natural health and those natural health food stores. But you can go in there and buy raw sauerkraut. Not the pasteurized, jarred up stuff that's already dead when you buy it, but raw, organic sauerkraut is teeming with the bacteria your intestines need. You can buy Veggie Delight in the stores. It's a bunch of vegetables, including celery and yeast and probably carrots and certainly cabbage, and that's all put together. But these are sparkling foods. And if you don't really like the taste of a sauerkraut or something, I'll tell you, you're only about 2 weeks away and your body will love it if you just eat a tablespoon a day. You'll get used to doing it. And then if you're more excited about working in your kitchen and making your kitchen basically your health focus, you'll get the crockery and start taking organic cabbage, and you'll make your own sauerkraut, which comes to fruition in about 4 to 6 weeks. And then I say, take that square foot of your home and write it off as agricultural exemption on your income tax, because you're now growing food for humanity. That's it.
No, we have one of those crocks, my wife and I, and we make that stuff every once a month. It's just incredible.
Well, I need a recipe. I struggle sometimes here in Texas making mine come out well, but I'm a little bit new to that because I've always just bought it. Mm-hmm. But this is something that people can do. And then pursuant to this same line of reasoning, if you have ever had an antibiotic, ever, if you were not properly breastfed, back in the 50s and 60s when unfortunately the medical doctors were trying to cram women back in the workforce, and they told them not to breastfeed and to use a synthetic soy-based formula for children, which is totally unsuitable to our human genetics. So we've had some really bad advice coming about health, but we could expect that because doctors really are disease specialists, and there's no one better on this planet if you want to understand a disease and get lab testing done on a specific disease. But frankly, they have no business talking to us about health because they're disease specialists. If you want to talk about health, you need a health expert. That would be a naturopath and a nutritionist, people like that do nothing but study health all day. So we've gotten ourselves confused in our job responsibilities. But now you're talking about getting probiotics. people really should expend some money each month and buy different probiotic cultures, because there's so many things now in our food, the pesticides, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, too much alcohol. These things start interfering with our intestinal flora, the culture, the 10 times more cells in our GI tract than in our body. These are voters on how our body must run itself. They're not a minority. They are the majority. And so they have a powerful influence. And what these bacteria need, they need fiber, because they digest these fibers, they chew on them, and then they pass information to our enterocytes, keep those tight junctures closed, and how our bodies are going to set the point of inflammation. So we need fiber. And we need probiotics, and we really need them every day in today's world, because there's just too many things that tear down and disrupt our intestinal ecology. That is one of the first things people should do, because it's foundational. Now, here's the thing, as I was pointing out, is that leaky gut, if it's present in a person's body, then it creates an obstacle to cure. You're not going to cure hypothyroidism if you have leaky gut. You're not going to cure autoimmune diseases. Your body can't if you keep the set point and the leaky gut going. So for people that want to rebuild their health, you've got to go down to the bootstraps and grab and pull. And that's going to be number one, solve your digestion, solve the leaky gut, probiotics and fiber. That's the big issue. They're not that expensive. Anyone can do that. And then from there, we would look at thyroid metabolism and just making sure the body's cranking the ATP energy that it needs to heal. Thirdly, we've got to get into detox, and I hope we have time for me to give people a new model for detox, the new model that's needed in the 21st century.
Yeah, we have about 3 or 4 minutes left in the show, so we can talk about detoxification.
Well, it's been my pleasure after 28 years in the clinic to help Dr. Shane Morris develop a 3-phase detoxification program. The first phase is called Build the Liver. The liver is our primary detox organ. And if by building it, we automatically get better cleansing. So that's all different than trying to go in and kick the body and start tearing things down to cleanse before the body is ready. We must build the liver. We have a program that we do for 20 days to build the liver, to support the gallbladder, because the gallbladder is going to be releasing mercury and aluminum and nickel and toxins into the intestines. It's part of our detox pathway. Then the second phase is called the extracellular matrix. Now here we go to the cell membrane, and we start pulling off the heavy metals and pesticides that are inflaming our cell membranes. When that's solved, now nutrition can get into the cell. Now the immune communications happen. Everything is about the cell membrane. That's the most important tissue in our body. So if you think you've got a liver and a brain, your number one most important tissue in your body are all your cell membranes. A new way to think about them is a collective organ, including the mitochondrial and nuclear membranes. Now, that's the second phase. So here we provide more drainage, and we provide the chelators, and this is more of a detox push, and we never let go of supporting the liver. And that's 20 days. And then the third 20 days, the last phase, is all about the inner cell, where we're having the antioxidants. We're doing something called methylation, where we're getting more methyl donors into the cells. We're getting cardiolipin, which is a rare fatty acid that supports the integrity of the cell membranes. And we're providing the no-ono cycle, or the inner cell antioxidants, so that the cells are safe to raise ATP. And we're raising ATP, we're raising glutathione, which is the body's chief detoxifying and self-protective molecule in every cell. Now, so we're doing all of these things based on the latest research, using the herbs that activate healthy epigenetics so that the cells can reset and experience optimal energy production, optimal nutrition. They detoxify themselves, and now we're taking all the cells, we're taking the toxins outside of the cells. I mean, we're running them out through the cell membrane, through the extracellular matrix now that's all clean, and we're able to escort these to the liver and out of the body. At this point, the stage is set where detox can actually cross the blood-brain barrier, and we can push glutathione a little bit more, and we work with some chelators in the intestines. So when that gallbladder releases that mercury, it's picked up, and we don't have auto-intoxication or retoxication, because the gallbladder empties into the small intestine, and there's still some many miles of tubing, we'll call it feet of tubing, that the body has a chance to reabsorb that mercury. And now it's bound up and it's carried out of the body. And so in 60 days, this is the new model for detoxification. Build the liver, focus on the extracellular matrix and the cell membranes, detoxify that, and then drive the message of health and nutrition inside the cell. So we have true cellular detox. This is how the body is able to correct in its own some of these horrendous diseases that are affecting humanity, from Alzheimer's and autism to the chronic degenerative things such as arthritis and Crohn's disease and multiple sclerosis. Mm-hmm. And the message to part now, that I know the time is wearing thin, is that our bodies indeed have the innate mechanism to cure themselves of multiple sclerosis, chronic degenerative diseases, arthritis, Alzheimer's, but we have to pay attention and do it now in the right order. Mm-hmm. We have to stop the onslaught of the things that are destroying our cells. It's no longer, gee, I don't feel any radiation when I walk through the airport scanner. You've got to know that backscatter technology is damaging cells, and they'll tell you it's not. But I'll tell you, check the research. It's damaging the DNA. We cannot be damaging our bodies inside our cells. But the body has the ability to apply the nutrients. If you're concerned about Fukushima radiation, you can supplement with chlorella and tocotrienols. The gamma-delta tocotrienols are fractions of the vitamin E. Mm-hmm. Get a vitamin E with all 8 fractions. Right. And your cells can repair. Our cells can activate telomerase enzyme and repair the ends of the DNA. Our bodies are absolutely phenomenal, and they're begging us to restore our health and live in the joy and abundance that life offers us. To do this, nutrition, herbology, homeopathy, acupuncture, the naturopathic practices, this is the true medicine for health and healing of the human being. Mm-hmm. And so if a person is suffering an affliction, first, believe innately within yourself, your body has the ability to correct this. It's not due to a deficiency of a drug. It is due to the onslaught of the things that affect our cells. That's what the download will explain, a little 4-page download on detoxification, and why it's so important for, number 1, correct leaky gut. Number 2, be sure your thyroid metabolism is revving your engine well. 3, detoxify. And that's 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And then, when you've done all that, build your health with a good nutrition. Be using the fermented vegetables, use supplements, use herbs. Stay away from commercial food as much as possible. Stay away from the pesticides and the genetically modified foods, and get back to nature, because that's the foundation of our health. Justin, Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Doctor. And I just wanted to give people an action plan. So if they, we got really little amount of time left. If they want to find out more about this detox program, can they find it on jacktips.com?
Yes, they're happy to. They're welcome to contact me through that website. I have another website which is called openbookhealth.com.
Okay. Articles
posted there. That's mostly for health practitioners. These are more the deeper articles about how we can reverse autoimmune disease and things like that.
Okay.
But listeners might enjoy that website as well. I would say it all starts with that little 4-page download that you're posting on your site, Justin, because it gives the overview of detoxification. And I'm pretty darn sure that my email address, my direct email, is going to be in there. And I'm just thrilled to help anyone who wants to embark on a program for better health.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. Would you mind staying while I close out the show?
Fantastic. Glad to do it. And I want to thank everyone for sharing this time. It's been an honor to serve you with this dose of information.
Excellent. Thank you, Doctor. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on ExtremeHealthRadio.com. If you're interested in what the doctor was talking about, His website is jacktips.com and openbookhealth.com, I believe. We'll have all of this information on the show notes as well as the PDF file that he is mentioning, and that's at extremehealthradio.com/27. If you found value in this show, would you please click like on the Facebook, follow us on Facebook, and send a link to your friends? We would greatly appreciate that. And don't forget to check out our store. We're adding products to it all the time that are high quality products, physical products and e-products. So there's tons of great stuff there for you. Also, we are 100% listener supported. So if you'd like to donate, we want to make sure that we keep our shows free for everybody. So if you can donate, we would greatly appreciate it. If not, I just hope you learn as much as you can, benefit as much as you can from